I'm going to show you how to take your adult hat fine gauge loom and make a universal hat that will fit almost anybody, and that includes down to a toddler. And the way that works is you have this ribbing stitch that actually allows it to increase and shrink naturally without it staying in the same shape. Now you can't do this if you use an E-wrap. You actually have to use a knit, whether that be the U-knit or a flat knit or regular knit. And when you're done, you should be able to fold it up to the necessary size you want. So I'm going to do this in such a way, I'm going to show you how to do this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I've done the cast on. And then I'm going to take and show you what this rib stitch is and tell you how many rows you need to do. And then I will show you a cast off that will allow it to sit smoother on top of the head with not much creasing. So let's get started. I'm using a worsted yarn, so any standard yarn will work. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the cast on. And what you're going to do is you're going to E-wrap the peg, and I like to stick my hook in there, and then E-wrap the peg again, toss the bottom loop over. And I like to stick my hook in front of the peg, wrap it once, wrap it again, toss the bottom loop over. Wrap the peg, wrap it again, toss the bottom loop over. And you can do this very thing also on the 1/4 inch gauge and the 3/8 inch gauge. That is the way I have this intended. So wrap and wrap. And you're going to do this all the way around on your hat loom. After you get done doing that on your hat loom, casting on, you're going to do this rib stitch. And what it is, it's a knit 3, and it's where you take the bottom loop, and the trick is to lay the working yarn over your ring and pinky finger. Do not pull it, do not add tension, just lay it over just to kind of guide it, and then toss the bottom loop over and push back into the center of the loom. And this naturally loosens your stitch when you're flat knitting back and back. So you're going to knit 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to purl 2, where you stick the hook through the top of the stitch. Then you grab the working yarn and pull it up through the bottom and to the top. Take the original stitch off and place your new stitch on. Repeat this again. Stick the hook through the top of the stitch. Pull your working yarn up through the bottom. Take the original stitch off and place through the top. You purl 2. Then you're going to knit 3, 1, 2, 3, purl 2, 1, 2, knit 3, 1, 2, 3, purl 2, 1, 2. So you're going to continue this knit 3, purl 2 all the way around, and then you're just going to keep going with that. Knit 3, purl 2, knit 3, purl 2 for 70 rows. And while it seems long, the purpose is to be able to fit it on any head and fold up a brim like that. So go ahead and pause the video and get your hat up to that point, and then I will show you how to decrease it in such a way that it's a lot flatter up top. Now it's time to start closing up the hat, and we're going to do 2 rows of decreasing to where we're down to 20 stitches from the 80. So our first thing is going to be to get down to the 40 stitches. So go ahead and knit the first 2. Place that first stitch onto the second peg, toss the bottom loop over. Knit the next 2 stitches. Take the first stitch, put it on the second peg, toss the bottom loop over. Knit the next 2 stitches. Take the first loop, put it on the second peg, and toss the bottom loop over. Knit 2. Take the first loop, put it on the second peg, toss the bottom loop over. You're going to do that all the way around, and that should have you with 40 pegs. So you should be half the amount of stitches you originally had were 80. It should be down to 40, and then I'll show you how to get down to 20. Okay, we've done our first row of decreases. Now we should be down to 40 stitches. That means that every other peg should have a stitch on it. Now we're going to need to decrease our stitches down to 20, and the reason why we're doing this with the fine gauge loom is while you could do a drawstring cast off, it would be entirely too bulky at the top and you wouldn't really be able to close it down enough. And even if at 40 you're still going to have a lot of bulkiness at the top. So what we're doing is we're just trying to close it up and so that it doesn't have that bulkiness. So what you're going to do is you're going to go behind the empty peg and you're going to knit the next 2. Then you're going to move that one over, toss the bottom loop over. Then go behind that empty peg, knit, go behind that empty peg and knit. Then take that loop, move it over to that next peg, toss the bottom loop over. Go behind the empty peg, knit, go behind the next empty peg, knit, pick up the previous loop, put it on the next peg, toss the bottom loop over. Go behind the empty peg, knit the next peg, go behind the empty peg, knit the next peg, take that previous loop, pull it over, and toss the bottom loop over. This should give you 3 empty pegs in between your stitches. So you're basically doing the same thing except you're not touching the empty pegs, but you did previously. So you're basically knitting 2 and then taking the first stitch, placing it onto the next peg with the stitch on it and tossing the bottom loop over. So go ahead and complete this and then we'll go about finishing up our hat. Okay, at this point it's time to do a drawstring cast off. So what you're going to do is you're going to cut you a long strand and you're going to go in and you're going to send the hook up through the bottom of the stitch, pull the tail through the top like a knit. Go to the next one, pull through the top, and the next one send the hook up through the bottom of the stitch, pull the tail through the bottom, just like if you were to do a knit. Take all the rest of the stitches off. Okay, and pull the hat out. And then what I'm going to do is turn it inside out. And then I'm going to find my ends. There's an end. Where's my other end? And there's another end. And then we're going to start lightly pulling them in. And then I'm going to half knot that. Go ahead and snip the ends. And pull through. And as you can see, you have a smooth top that isn't bulky. And while it looks like it's tight, it actually stretches open and it'll fit flat to the top of the head. And because it'll close up like this, as you can see, it will fit a toddler's head. You may have to fold up the brim quite a bit to fit a toddler's head, but it will fit. And if you want to make it fit a baby's head without the big brim, you can shorten the rows. You don't have to do 70 rows. You can just have that. If you wanted to make a baby size like this that the child could grow into, you can. But basically this is your ribbed hat that is one size fits all kind of style. And this is really the only stitch that you can do like this that has that kind of elasticity that adjusts so vastly in size. So that is how you make a simple ribbed hat for one size fits all, and how you cast off for as little gathering at the top on your fine gauge adult hat looms. And you can do this on the 1/4 inch as well as the 3/8. And what I did was, this is Lion's Brand Landscape Boardwalk yarn, and I took a whole skein to do it. So I'll post below how many yards that is and everything. And that's it.